Good morning. My grandfather used to say, Sarah, there are two kinds of people in this world. There are those who rush and wait, and those who wait and rush. It's okay, he said, except when they attract each other, because they can make each other miserable. I rush and wait. My husband waits and rushes. You only need to observe us making a decision how and when we're going to get to the airport to know exactly what my grandfather was talking about. The point is that we are all different. One is not right or wrong, it's just different. And I'll take it one step further. When you consider all the ways, big and small, that you and I are different, each one of us is unique. So I want to talk today about the possibility of your considering your uniqueness in every major decision that you make, and then making that decision in a way that maximizes the value of that uniqueness for you and the rest of the world. I'm not talking about who you think you should be. I'm not talking about who you want to be. I'm talking about who you really are. Your innate strengths, the skills that you've spent years developing, your preferences on time management and airport arrival, even your most heartfelt desires. If we can all be truly honest about who we are and bring that knowledge into every major decision, we can make a choice with genuine integrity and commit to it wholeheartedly. This is not narcissism. This is not selfishness. This is finding a way to bring the best of who we are to the world. And I believe that's what Aristotle meant when he said, to know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. Now, Aristotle pondered this for a lifetime. How long did Buddha sit under his tree? How does a time-starved generation like ours begin to know thyself? I'd like to suggest that there are two things that we can do. We can simplify the problem, and we can simplify the process for addressing that problem. First, let's simplify the problem of knowing thyself. I believe that we go a long way in knowing ourselves simply by knowing what makes us happy, successful, and understood. In the decision in front of you, what interests you, the pursuit of which is going to make you happy? What strengths do you bring to the table that you can capitalize on? And what needs do each of us have that, if satisfied, will help us to feel understood and free us up to do all of that? I believe if you can answer those three questions about yourself, you know what will make you happy, successful, and understood. Now, Aristotle also said that happiness was the whole meaning and purpose of life, the aim and end of human existence. Phew! That's a whole lot more than I'm trying to tackle right here. I'm thinking a whole lot more pragmatically, like how do you make the decision in front of you? And practically speaking, you are more likely to commit to something, a relationship, or any pursuit for that matter, and to give it your all if it interests you and you're happy. You're more likely to be successful and of value to yourself and the world if you're using your unique strengths and not trying to be something you're not. And you'll be more free to go about that if you're not struggling to get your basic needs met. I believe that in any decision, it is as simple and as difficult as that. To know thyself is the aim and the claim. The goal and the path are one and the same. Pursue the goal, pursue the path, and you could be happy, successful, and understood. So how do we do that? I'd like to propose a simple three-step process that we can follow. And I want to work through each of the steps and apply it to a real-life situation, like choosing the right job for me. No. Take a small kernel of knowledge about you or me and apply it to the decision in front of you. For example, I am significantly more at home with ambiguity and complexity than most people are. Give me a problem that few people have thought about, or care about and let me wallow in it. I'm really happy. And I'm pretty good at generating new insights. So this would be a strength for me in the right role. So let's suppose I'm choosing between an operations management role or a research role in something nebulous like, let's say, decision making. In which role am I likely to derive the most enjoyment and to excel? Well, it's the research role for me. But before I act on that, I'm going to take it to the next step. I'm going to test it with somebody who knows and cares about me. Why do we do this? Well, because we all have blind spots that someone who knows and cares about us can help us to see. And because we want to know if we've generated all the possibilities. So in the example that we're looking at, my person who knew and cared about me, think of that person as my coach, might have said, Sarah, have you thought about how you can apply your strength in that operations role? Can you turn it into something where you're looking for new and different ways to actually run the operation? And finally, you can study fluid dynamics all day long and never learn how to sail. You can learn a lot of things and gain a lot of knowledge about yourself and never make a decision. The point of the third step is to make sure that you stay focused on practical, usable knowledge. And it's not usable if you don't use it. We also know from the research on how adults learn that they're more likely to retain that knowledge and to do something with it if they do something immediately with it. So the point of the final step, go, is to go and do something with that knowledge. In the example that we're thinking about, I might call the two potential employers and explore the two possibilities again with them. Or I might make a final decision. This is really easy, right? Well, there's one small complication. That no step that we start with, where do we get the information about you and me that we start with? Well, one way would be to ask the individual. It takes a little bit of doing, but you can get pretty close to what makes you happy if you think about it. Write it down. Think about what's going on in your job and think about how much of that criteria is being met. It's a little harder to come up with your strengths. I've often found that it works best if you ask somebody else. You could ask your boss or your coworkers, what are my strengths? If you ask a spouse or a partner, you're likely to hear a lot about what you're not good at. Just take the opposite of that for right now. Test it with a friend. Try it on. But what if I asked you, what do you need from your boss in order to maximize your performance? How do you need for your coworkers to interact with you? How do you need for your spouse to interact with you when you're really upset? Could you answer those questions? If you can, write it down, and we know a pretty good amount about what will help you be understood. But my experience has been that most people can't answer that question. And if they can, they have trouble applying it to new and varied situations. So what if there were a tool that we could use to jumpstart that no step with a special emphasis on what our needs are? Well, actually, psychologists have known how to do that for over 50 years. And the tool that they use is called a psychometric instrument. Does that sound scary to you? It's actually crazy scary how accurately some of these instruments can assess who somebody really is. My husband and I used one such instrument, it was the Berkman method, during our premarital counseling. The counselor said, I'm not going to tell you not to get married, but I'm going to tell you what you're going to fight about the rest of your married life. Oh boy, was she right. And after 18 years of marriage, she's still right. She was able to predict with what turned out to be astounding accuracy what would happen if our unique needs were not met. We're able to focus now on fighting fair in those situations, but more importantly, to look for the unmet needs, to avoid the source of the conflict. Taking that knowledge, though, to other situations has proved to be a whole lot harder. The knowledge and the information coming back about each of us was rich, but incredibly complex, and we couldn't sort through it on our own. And neither one of us wanted to call a trained counselor every time we were about to make a big decision. I called this the three little bears problem to self-help. We can have a little bit of information about you that we get from you or your friends, or we can have the other extreme, too much information, like our tax code that takes a whole team of professionals to sort out. What we need is a solution that is just right, not too much and not too little. I suspect that the solution that is just right for you will involve your taking some kind of personality assessment. And there are lots of relatively easy to understand assessments out there. Examples are Myers-Briggs and StrengthsFinders. You can take one of those and use it as your starting point for no. But the even easier way is to get a self-help book on the topic that you care about that's linked to an assessment appropriate for that topic. Such books are increasingly available, and they will guide you on how to use the assessment findings. But what's really exciting is that with advances in technology, we can now take the wisdom of the powerful personality assessments, those scary psychometrics, and behind the scenes combine them with the simplicity and the practicality of a self-help book. Content can be customized just for you, and just the right amount of information delivered right here. So let me tell you a story, a real-life story about one young man who worked through this process. During a recent job search, he took the time to figure out what would make him happy, successful, and understood at work. Even though he'd been successful in sales roles all his life, he learned that his interests and his strengths suggested that he'd be happier in a more technical, hands-on assignment. So he applied for a role as a software application engineer, and he got an interview. But the hiring manager said, "You've never done anything like this before in your life. Why are you interested in this role?" And he said, "I've taken the time to understand what I really love and what I'm really good at. I know the kind of work environment in which I'm going to thrive, and I believe this job has all those characteristics." His passion was contagious. His analysis of his strengths was compelling. And he was able to communicate what he wanted and needed in a way that the hiring manager understood. He got the job on the spot. So what big decision do you have to make? Is it the next job for you? Is it finding a way to improve the one you have? Are you looking for a way to volunteer your time and talent in your synagogue, church, temple, or in a nonprofit organization? Are you looking to improve your relationship with your spouse or partner? All of these impact not only you, but a lot of other people as well. So I encourage you to take the time to understand what it is that interests you and will make you happy, what strengths you bring to the table, and what needs you have that will make you successful. Test it with someone who can be your decision coach, and then go confidently into taking action. It's in everyone's best interest that you know yourself and fulfill the claim. The goal and the path are one and the same. If you are happy, successful, and understood, you can do the world a whole lot of good. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking the time to know yourself.